Welcome to News Central now, even as we continue to bring you the situation in Plateau State, where the state governor, Caleb Mutfwang, has strongly condemned the tragic collapse of a two-story building at Saints Academy, which resulted in the deaths of 22 students. Visiting the scene on Saturday, the governor described the incident as a Black Friday and emphasized that it was an avoidable tragedy. The governor praised the unity and humanity displayed by the community members who gathered on Friday to assist in rescue efforts. News Central's Chizoba Anionwe was there and tells us more.
It is Saturday morning, a day after the sad incident occurred in the city of Jos, the Plateau State capital, where a two-story building collapsed on students while writing their last exams for the term. This other side is the remains of the other two-story building that was also brought down after what happened yesterday for the fear of unknown. However, operators of the excavators have told us that they have reached the ground level to ascertain that no other body is left under the rubble. Among those who visited the scene of the incident on Saturday morning was the governor, who expressed his deep regret and described the event as Black Friday. Following his tour of the incident site, the governor proceeded to the designated hospitals to visit the surviving students who are currently recuperating.
Yesterday we did was a Black Friday for us. It was a very unfortunate incident. Like I said, it's an incident that could have been avoided with proper governance. Clearly, you can see that the building leaves a lot to be desired. Even as a layman, I could see that the building was not up to standard. Let me appreciate the people of Plateau State who rushed to the scene in their numbers. People also lent their equipment for use. This is our common humanity, that when disaster befalls any one of us, we are there for one another. We'll continue this process of engagement and comforting one another until God brings comfort to the families who lost their dear ones.
Some of the affected students shared their experiences with journalists at the Bingham University Teaching Hospital, Jos University Teaching Hospital, Plateau Specialist Hospital, and Our Lady of Apostles Hospital.
My other classmates so the thing happened in that church. So I wanted to enter the class. As I was entering, the thing that happened, I just felt I don't know what happened.
Now, how are you feeling?
Just like the class that day when the war started breaking, so my classmates now woke us up because we are about to sleep and some of my classmates are going to sleep. So we are about to sleep, then she saw the capture on the board, then she told us to run. When we ran out, as we just came out of the class, then the building fell down, then we slid, then iron and made my hand. The students came to call us to go for another class. Before we could leave the class, it collapsed on us, and when it collapsed on us, we struggled. We were 11 in the class. All of us struggled out. Only one person in the class died. We came out by the grace of God, and thank God our class collapsed first, because if it started from up, would have been all dead. And thank God for the decks there that held the first wall down.
Efforts to reach the parents of the deceased students were unsuccessful, as many had left town for funeral rites. However, some parents of the surviving victims shared their thoughts.
When I saw it yesterday, I was not happy, short, because the children that the incidents happened, that they don't know that this thing happened yesterday, but it just happened. But we thank God for the ones that are alive, the ones that died, and that they just rest in peace.
It's substandard. The materials here is substandard, and we are trusting God that the government will come and look into this.
So what's your comforting words to other parents?
My comforting words is that let all the parents that have their works here, let them have faith in God. None of their work will lose their life.
building experts remain at the scene of the incident, collecting samples for analysis to determine the cause of the collapse. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anionwe.
In a related development, 4 people have been rescued from a building that collapsed in Kubwa, a residential district of the Bari Area Council in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja. According to eyewitnesses, the building collapsed in the early hours of this morning. Escaped residents say they heard sounds and rumblings and ran out before the actual collapse. Earlier, Joshua Imarai spoke to us from the scene of the collapse.
A two-story building collapsed as at the early hours of today. However, 4 persons has been rescued from the rumble, and the excavation of the building is ongoing. And the Development Authority of the Federal Capital Territory has sealed the building and asked every resident to live here. And currently, you can see men of the Nigerian police force are here safeguarding the property in cases of property that were left behind by a resident of the building being safeguarded. However, there is something that is worthy of note. The lady who raised an alarm of this building collapsing earlier actually ran out of the building and called on her fellow residents in the building. And unknowingly to her, some of her personal belongings were inside the building. As they were gathering and as they were outside looking at the building, then she recalled that some of her personal belongings were inside. She ran inside, and after running inside, the building caved in. And what happened after, she became the last person to be rescued from the rubble. She's currently at the hospital. But however, preliminary findings from officials stated that this building was built with substandard material. They took a quick look at the sand, took a quick look at the cement and the blocks. They noted that everything used to build this building is actually substandard. And there are rumors that this building was built on a short time, that it didn't take 2 months before this building was erected.
Let's move away from that and tell you that voting has ended in the ongoing Delta State local government elections across the 25 local government areas of the state. Meanwhile, there were reports of some polling units where elections were not held due to no voting materials and DCEC officials. Now that the elections are over, attention has shifted to the DCEC office in Asaba, where the final results of each local government would be announced by the DCEC returning officers.
That this election is free and fair. I've been up since, monitoring the process, and now I'm here to cast my vote. I've casted my vote, and we're sure I will be victory of PDP by the grace of God. Then on the issue of the judgment, Supreme Court have given judgment. But you can see that we believe in that same process. That's why when I came in, I did not constitute a transition committee, but not here in Delta State. I'm not in support of transition committee.
We are now joined by our correspondent, Austin Azu in Asaba, the state capital, to bring us up to speed with the updates of the exercise. Austin, good evening to you. We understand that elections have ended in the states, of course, in the polling units. What more can you tell us as regards how the election is panning out in terms of the collation and, of course, most especially the areas where elections were not held?
Yes, first and foremost, I'm at the DCEC office. Behind me, you can see the signboard of the Delta State Independent Electoral Commission. And at my right-hand side, you can see the entrance to the DCEC office. Of course, you can see the security personnel mounting their guard, protecting the materials that have just been brought in. Materials have started coming in. The results from the various local government areas have started arriving at the DCEC office at the moment. Not quite long ago, we saw the local government of Mudokwa West and some other local government. They came in to submit their materials, accompanied with security agencies and some observers. So a moment from now, we'll be expecting the DCEC official to announce the commencement of the coalition exercise. Thereafter, expected that the results will be announced one after the other by the DCEC chairman.
So what about the places where elections were not held? Has there been any form of information or any explanation given? Because, of course, we heard that materials were not available for those polling units. Now, it probably would seem as though those living in those areas would feel disenfranchised. So I'd like to get more details as regards that and how people, most especially those who are not able to vote, how they're reacting to this.
Yes, of course, we had some pockets of reports from one or two local government, particularly the Anyosha South and Anyosha North local government area, where the exercise did not take place in some polling units, and they actually protested against what they perceived to be disenfranchisement by the DSEC. But meanwhile, I think the DSEC officials will respond to these questions. Thereafter, maybe we'll bring updates what the DSEC official might be saying concerning those areas where elections were not held. They should be able to tell us the reasons.
So what about party representatives and voters for the areas where election did hold? Would you say that they were satisfied by, of course, the conduct of the election by the officials in those places?
Like I said earlier on, I said that some places in Anyosha South, Anyosha North, where elections were not conducted, they protested. They were actually on the streets protesting, demanding that elections should be conducted in those areas, that they expected the materials to come, despite the heavy downpour this morning, that some places actually voted. So they should not be disenfranchised. They should be given the rights. They should be given the mandate for them to go and vote, because they said it's their legitimate right for them to cast their vote, that they shouldn't be denied. Like I said earlier on, the DSEC officials should be able to give us a clear terms why the materials did not get to those areas, and not even the presence of DSEC officials. So we are expecting DSEC to clear the air on that situation, so that we'll be able to give an update what they might be saying concerning those areas that elections were not held.
Okay, Austin Azu, thank you very much. I will be, of course, contacting you later on to see how the collation results would eventually play out during the course of the day. Thank you so much. Let's quickly go on a short break on the news. We have more stories to come your way. Don't go away. Many thanks for staying with us. No fewer than 721 billion naira was received as bribe by Nigerian public officials in 2023. A report by the National Bureau of Statistics said the 721 billion naira paid in bribe amounts to about 0.35% of Nigeria's gross domestic product. The result was based on a survey conducted with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. According to the survey, the average cash bribe was 8,284 naira, an increase from an average of 5,754 naira in 2019. It also noted that bribery is more common in rural areas, with rural residents paying an average of 5.8 bribes compared to 4.5 bribes in urban areas. The report added that corruption was ranked fourth among the most important problems affecting the country in 2023 after the cost of living, insecurity, and unemployment. Joining us to discuss this is our public affairs analyst, Theophilus Akatuba. Theophilus, it's nice to have you join us to talk about this.
It's a pleasure to join you this evening, and good evening to you.
Okay, so looking at the socio-political events that played out in 2023, were you surprised at the reports that Nigerian public officials received 721 billion naira in bribe?
Not surprised at all. I still feel that it's underestimated. That's the real economy in Nigeria, the economy of bribe taking, invoice inflating. It's actually the biggest economy in my estimation. So it didn't come to me as a surprise. I'm impressed that they're able to pin it down to a modest figure, such as 721 billion.
So yeah, are you suggesting it could be way above that?
Far, far above that. This is what they're able to track. There's so much that went underground and very below and underground.
Okay,
Almost a
well,
common practice. Can you believe it? That even within the government, they pay bribe to themselves. This is not about Nigerians. I'm telling you that within government, just imagine of government trying to assess its own budget will have to pay to the people in charge of finance and movement of money to be able to. It's a mess. We have a long way to go.
That's quite interesting. Now, Theophilus, let's tie it down, pin it down to some some areas. Now, 31,000 judges and magistrates, according to the report, accepted bribe last year. Now, is this a mere coincidence? Is this a mere coincidence, or this actually corroborates the several allegations that have been leveled against the judiciary of conniving with state and non-state actors to subvert justice?
I used to doubt corruption in the judiciary until I began to interact with lawyers, not ordinary lawyers, lawyers of repute, of status. The stories, the impunity, in fact, the confidence with which they operate and they corrupt themselves, I couldn't recover for a long time. This is true. I always say that this report is good, an eye-opener, but it's a modest representation of what the reality is.
Now, when you look at the previous administration, the past administration, and this current administration, one thing was actually constant in their propositions. They actually vowed to deal decisively with corruption in the country. Now, we have the EFCC, we have ICPC, and other law enforcement agencies. Now, with all these at their beck and call, does it seem as though they've actually failed woefully in dealing with the issue of corruption? Or maybe there are some bottlenecks that's actually inhibiting the tackling of corruption from the grassroots down to the top?
Thank you very much. I think President Buhari, in my opinion, did not do enough in terms of what it needed to do to stem corruption across the country, especially in institutions such as the police, the judiciary. I am of the opinion, and I've always held that opinion, that if you want to fight corruption in Nigeria and conquer corruption, you've got to reform the police, the judiciary, and the media. You must strengthen the media. If these three institutions are supported and reformed and promoted, we'll have a better bite at the fight against corruption. The current president is not promising. There's no direct, open talk about fighting corruption as a cardinal promise. But the report we hear is that you're using technology to try to stem and reduce corruption. The very bottleneck against corruption are the very people that you have enlisted to fight it. The very corrupt people are the same people. The public officials are the corrupt ones who have taken 721. They are the same people that are the agents of government to fight corruption. So you see how difficult it can be.
To be very realistic, Theophilus, from how the leadership at the center, of course, with the president's cabinet, how they've portrayed themselves in the last 1 year. You've talked about, reforming the police and other security agencies, but then let's look at the executive, let's look at the legislature too. Do you think that corruption can be eliminated totally from these arms of government? And how do you think that can even be done?
It can be if we are determined to do so. But it's difficult for us to be so determined when the very people that you want to fight are the same people who will be at the forefront of the fight. And so it's a very tough, difficult matrix. It's going to take a long time of consciousness, of orientation. We are very sentimental. We are very ethnically rooted. We are very religiously positioned. Everyone is protecting his corrupt friend and brother. And anyone who falls victims is looking for who to rescue them and who to take a bribe and be bribed. It's a very, complex way.
Very complex indeed. Theophilus at Katuda, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Let's now head to Abia State, where the state's head of services' recent directive to roll back all command promotions over the past 8 years has sparked reactions from both current and former civil servants. Many advocate upholding civil service norms of gradual career advancements based on merit, while others argue that the government may have overlooked the complexities of the issue. News Central's Chinwe spoke exclusively with retired Abia State Permanent Secretary Chimdi Olua, who provided insights into the policy's potential implications.
What the governor or the government of Abia has done this time, for me, it's a good omen for the civil service, because it will help them, to help the service to fall back to shape. And you won't have a situation where you have many directors in one department, for instance.
Following the recent announcement by the Abia State government to reverse command promotions initiated by the previous administration, both current and retired civil servants have expressed their approval. While reluctant to appear on camera, workers emphasized the necessity of this corrective action to safeguard the integrity of the service. In a circular issued by the head of service, Queen Obioma, all command promotions made in the last 8 years will be reversed. The directive aims to restore the hierarchy and dignity of the state's civil service, which has reportedly declined over the years. While the government says the directive aims to facilitate merit-based career advancement within the civil service, critics argue it may be perceived as retaliatory. According to some, the previous administration granted promotions based solely on favoritism rather than merit. However, Chimdi Oluoha, a retired permanent secretary in the state, argues that command promotions are within the prerogative of any leader to offer, provided they are justified by legitimate reasons.
You know that it is a good idea, it encourages. But it is not usually done as everybody, let's go. No. It is on individual basis, performance oriented.
The 2023 command promotion by former Governor Okezi Bazo, which had not yet been recognized by the Alex Oti government before being nullified, saw some civil servants promoted to permanent secretaries, benefiting from the same promotion that has now been invalidated.
Some of the beneficiaries from what I heard may have gotten higher appointments with that. So what it will mean is that they will all fall back. We are going to watch to see how this is implemented, because it is in the implementation that will justify the essence of this circular.
This new order is likely in line with the recommendations from the Civil Service Reform Committee, which recently submitted its report to Governor Alex Oti. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
We'll now tell you that several experts in Nigeria have called for an outright review of the adoption of genetically modified organisms and their role in the food and agricultural sector, saying there is scientific evidence of its detrimental effects to the health of humans. This was as they converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, to engage and share knowledge on raised concerns surrounding the adoption of GMOs. To discuss this and issues around the use of genetically modified organisms, we're joined by Oluwapelumi Oladapo, is the founder, Fenrose's Integrated Services. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Oluwapelumi.
Good evening. Thank you for having me around here. What we'll talk about
Oluwapelumi, I would like to set the precedence for this conversation so that we have quality time talking about this. Now, the experts calling for a review mentioned in the report scientific evidence of GMOs as being detrimental in terms of how it affects humans. So I'd like you to provide details on the specific research they are actually referencing and how it applies to the context of Nigeria's agriculture.
Well, the major thing they are referencing is talking about some challenges we have in GMO food. So we're looking at the toxicity, the allergic reactions, whereby people have allergy, some people have allergy to food, so they react to these GMO foods. That's one. Then also some immune suppression. Some of them suppress the immunes of people. These are allegations. Some have been proven little way, let me put it that way. Then also some, we could say some of these GMO food cause cancer and some could cause loss of nutrition. But however, looking at this in the context of the Nigerian nature, we will say that a lot of organizations like National Biosafety Management Agency and also National Agricultural Seed Council are coming with a lot of regulations and looking into this. But I think some of them may not have been scientifically proven, whereby we have a raw evidence towards these things. I think maybe some scientists should go to the lab and give us, proven results so that we can say these things in Nigeria, these are what has affected a lot of people, these are people that this has affected, or they should carry out a sample on animals as we usually do, maybe on pigs. And this will really help us to be able to say that these things are the challenges we have and this food should be banned. And don't forget also, it was also stated in Nigeria that any GMO food being sold in any supermarket, they should be labeled GMO food. So I think we have a lot to do to make this come to reality.
So with what you have said now, looking away from health concerns, are there any economic or environmental factors or benefits specific to Nigeria that experts believe should be considered when evaluating the GMO adoption?
Firstly, economically, it gives farmers double increase. For example, you could have some genetically modified maize, and when you are planting on an acre of land, maybe you will have a few tons, and you could have like 10 tons now. Maybe I'm just giving just an illustration. So this helps the farmer, and also it's safety for the environment in some areas, not all. I could remember there was a particular time I was doing some research in a particular country, in a neighboring country here. So during that time, I carried out some research on some GMOs and non-GMOs. Based on my research at that time, I would still support non-GMO foods because it maintains its raw nutrients. However, for farmers to have their good yield because of profit maximization and looking at all the other things involved, like because there is no government support like insurance in case there is a flooding or there is pesticides that eat up the grains. So GMOs come in to sustain that for you. But in the long run, if there could be policies in place and way whereby we can balance both GMO and non-GMO food together, I think that would be the best way for us to go. And it will also help the environment and economically it will boost the pay and the pay rise of the farmer at the end of the day.
When you look at Africa, it actually has, luscious lands. And of course, we have fertile land in Nigeria and Africa. Are you really sure that we need this GMO? And is this GMO even being used? Is it adopted in advanced countries?
Well, GMO are used in advanced countries, but they are well regulated. I can give you that assurance. It's well regulated in advanced countries. But in Africa, do we really need it? I won't say yes and I won't say no. Because if I say yes, that do we really need it? We should also ask ourselves some questions that we have a lot of available lands that can bring forth the right fruit for us. Are we also making our farmers useless, or are we making them also depend on improved breeds that will come from abroad? Let me put it that way. But in the second thought, we'll look at can the farmers also produce seedlings from what they plant, and will it also bring good produce the next following year? Which the answer is no. I think what we could do is to partner in Africa at large with organizations that work on seedlings so that we could have better seed for us. They will also be genetically improved, or one way or the other. But it could be regulated the way it's been regulated in developed countries like the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and France.
All right, Oluwapelumi Oladapo, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
The pleasure is mine.
Away from that, in a move to bolster educational resilience and enrich learning achievements, Yobe State recently hosted its second annual Spelling Bee competition held in Damaturu, the state capital. The event drew participants from 72 schools from rural and urban areas. In this report, News Central's Umar Kirawa highlights the standout performance of young Khadija Manga. Her remarkable achievement surprised many, making her a beacon of inspiration.
With the theme Spelling to Improve Learning, a Key to Resilience, the spelling competition aimed to foster literacy skills among students and encourage a deeper engagement with language. The initiative also seeks to accelerate recovery efforts in a region previously impacted by long-standing insurgency.
It was really tough, but that is why the prize is there for us. It's for us to read our manuals very well, and if we read them very well, and that is why the trophy is there for the number one.
The spelling competition drew enthusiastic participation from more than 144 students representing both public and private schools. They showcased their impressive spelling skills across a variety of categories.
Every contestant that comes in is a winner, and I congratulate all of them. For ours, we want it to be institutionalized so that government will take over and government will continue implementing it across the state.
For this competition, they really try a lot because it's making some of the students to work hard. In terms of their speech, the outspoken words and other things.
This is just in line with the commitment of His Excellency Governor Malabuni to revive back the state of education in the state.
Program like this, I suggest should be taking place at least 3 times in a year because it will serve as a teaching tool and then mechanism for evaluation of the entire education ecosystem.
The participants' emotions vividly reflect their enthusiasm and unwavering pursuit of academic excellence.
It's my biggest dream, wallahi. I want to hold a trophy in my life, and now I'm holding it. Thanks Allah.
I'm very happy my daughter came first in this competition, and all the credit goes to Zaid bin Thabit, who nurtured her and trained her.
Our teachers, our parents, government have invested so much in the education sector, and we hope to improve better in future. We at least test the numerous investment put in place by His Excellency Governor Malabuni in the education sector.
The first place winner claimed a grand prize of over 1 million naira, along with a brand new laptop and a scholarship. Meanwhile, the first and second runners-up were also awarded significant prizes and additional support.
It goes to tell 2 things. 1, the resilience of our population, and then 2, the result of His Excellency's strive towards improving the education sector.
Officials treated the children to a sightseeing tour across various captivating locations in Damaturu.
Yobe State government will look inward to see how this process can be improved by institutionalization through relevant agencies, domesticating the process, and giving every LGA equal opportunity to participate.
The spelling competition is not only an event to win trophies and awards, but an avenue to lighten up path to brighter future and sustainable growth for the younger generation. In Damaturu for News Central, Umar Kirawa.
The news continues in West Africa, where Sierra Leone's security forces arrested 7 people in connection with a suspected bomb plot while seizing TNT explosives, drugs and other materials. According to a government statement, the intelligence service, army and police, after several months of surveillance, carried out a joint operation on July 7, targeting several locations in the western region of the country. It resulted in the seizure of materials used for making bombs and arrest of the suspects. The statement also said that a search at one of the homes of one of the suspects, Hussein Anta, led to the discovery of 7,847,100 Captagon pills with an estimated street value of $94 million. Captagon is widely known to be used by the Islamic State and fighters in Syria. In East Africa, 5 inmates said to be from Somalia's Al-Shabaab jihadist group and a guard have been killed in a blaze of gunfire during an attempted breakout from the main prison in the capital, Mogadishu, on Saturday. Jailed members of the Al-Qaeda-linked group, which has been waging a bloody insurgency for years, managed to obtain weapons and launched what appeared to be a well-planned bid to escape the prison. Witnesses living near the prison compound reported hearing the sound of grenade explosions and machine gun fire. Mohammed Azan, an officer with the Somali Custodial Corps, said security agencies are investigating the incident, but the situation at the prison is calm now. Al-Shabaab has carried out numerous bombings and other attacks in Mogadishu and other parts of the troubled country. In Rwanda, we tell you that President Paul Kagame has held his final rally ahead of the legislative and presidential elections next week. Longtime leader Kagame and his Rwandan Patriotic Front is widely expected to win and extend his iron grip on the Great Lakes nation. However, opposition candidate Frank Habizena hopes to cause an upset. When he ran in the last election in 2017, Habizena scrapped just 0.48% of the vote against Kagame's whooping 98.79%. Kagame has been Rwanda's strongman since the end of the 1994 genocide, when his RPF militia overthrew the extremist Hutu regime, which instigated the vicious killing spree that left around 800,000 people dead, mainly from the Tutsi minority.
You can't fake unity, you can't fake excitement, you can't fake a turn up like this one. You can't. Niyo mpamvu mvuga gukomeza umutekano, niyo mpamvu mvuga gukomeza inzira y'amajyambere, niyo mpamvu mvuga inzira y'ubuyobozi bwiza.
In business, the government of Ghana will borrow 17.4 billion Ghanaian cedis in July 2024, an 18.8% increase over that of June 2024. This will require an average weekly bid of 3.5 billion Ghanaian cedis to refinance maturing bills. In the past 2 months, post-cash reserve requirements, there had been an average weekly bid size of 4.1 billion Ghanaian cedis. This suggests scope for the Treasury to raise new money worth of about 3.2 billion Ghanaian cedis in July 2024. Last week, investors continued to favor the shorter end of the yield curve, with the 91-day bill raking in 2.5 billion Ghanaian cedis as against 2.3 billion Ghanaian cedis in the previous week, closing at a marginal decrease of 24.79%. Talking sports now, Barbara Krejcikova has been crowned the Wimbledon Women's Singles Champion after defeating Jasmine Paolini 6-2, 2-6, 6-4. It is the first time she has won the tournament. The result means there's now been a first-time winner of the women's singles at Wimbledon for 7 successive years. The match went to a deciding third set, with Krejcikova winning the first 6-2 and Paolini winning the second by the same score. However, the Czech ace overcame Paolini in the third and final set, breaking her opponent's serve to win 6-4 after a tense final game, which saw her give up championship point twice. Former France manager Laurent Blanc has been hired as coach of Al Ittihad, the Saudi Arabian club, which was announced on Saturday. Blanc, who had been out of work since being fired by Lyon last September, will be reunited in Jeddah with one star from his 2012 Euro squad, Karim Benzema, After the team finished 5th in the Saudi League last season, the 36-year-old striker, the club's star recruits, reportedly campaigned for a French-speaking coach. This prompted the resignation of club president Louis Nazar, who had reportedly reached an agreement with Italian Stefano Pioli, who had left AC Milan. The Al Ittihad squad also includes N'Golo Kante, a starter in the French team that reached the last 4 at the current Euros, and former Monaco and Liverpool Brazilian Fabinho. We also tell you that Japan's women's national football team cruised to a convincing 4-0 victory over Ghana's Black Queens in an international friendly match at the Gogo Kanazawa Stadium today. The Japanese team dominated the game from the outset, with forward Mina Tanaka coming close to scoring in the second minute, only to be denied by a superb save from Ghanaian goalkeeper Cynthia Konlan-Findi. However, Ghana's hope suffered a significant blow when experienced player Portia Boakie was sent off in the 23rd minute, leaving the Black Queens to play with 10 players for the remainder of the game. The match served as a warm-up for Japan before the Olympic Games, while Ghana used the fixture to assess their preparedness for the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The NBA has revealed the groups for the upcoming NBA Cup featuring last year's champion, the Los Angeles Lakers, in a group alongside the San Antonio Spurs led by Victor Wembanyama, the Oklahoma City Thunder of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant. The Golden State Warriors and Dallas Mavericks were grouped separately, potentially setting up a reunion between Klay Thompson and his former team. 30 teams will start competing on November 12 in the group stage, structured based on last season's standings, with the winners advancing to Las Vegas for the semifinals and finals in December. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. 74 victims discharged as Plateau State Governor Mutfwang orders closure of Saints Academy School. Local government election ends in Delta State as counting begins. We also told you that Rwandan President Kagame holds final rally in Kigali ahead of general elections. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.